What's up, everyone? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to talk about what's happening with the overall market and give you guys more insights on the bounce that could be coming. I'm going to talk about some very important levels to watch for and how it may end up playing out. Let me just mention that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. And the offer ends very soon, just 5 days. Anyways, guys, as a reminder, do not forget that we have a very, very crazy week ahead of us. The market's going to have FOMC on Wednesday, not to mention very important manufacturing numbers on Thursday, and the notorious employment numbers coming out for Friday. So we have a lot of important data for Wednesday through Friday, especially Wednesday when we have FOMC and Jerome Powell giving a speech. And then we have big tech earnings coming up between Tuesday and Thursday. The reactions should be closer to Wednesday through Friday to all of these, especially because of the fact that a lot of these big tech earnings are after the market closes on the days, and the big reactions usually happen the day after. So there's going to be crazy volatility between Wednesday and Friday for the markets, and we're going to be looking for some interesting price action. But one thing that's developing is that SPY is starting to form this very, very nice looking double bottom like structure. So I'm going to actually talk about this in more detail. We have this double bottom that's forming. And if anything, we're starting to turn right over here. We got this nice little gap up, a little bit of a push, and we established a higher low trying to trend above our 20 EMA. So it's a pretty good sign so far. But I would like to see if the buyers could hold us above 548. If that's the case, I'd be looking for 552 as a potential target for a temporary bounce. Am I saying the bounce will last forever? No, I'm not saying it's going to last forever, but for now, I could see basically a test of this trend line. And if it happens very early on, that would take us all the way up here to this basically just under 550, like 549 or so. And I think we could even try to break through this if we get a break above our key 50 EMA right over here, and also our 200 EMA as well. So that would take us all the way up to a potential target of 552. If you take a very, very handy dandy Fibonacci retracement tool as well, and we actually start from the top up here, you could see that that also aligns very, very well with our level right over here. The 0.786 retracement aligns with 552. So I think that would be our target if 548 were to break. If we do get a break above this trend line, this would be very close to 548 or so, very close to that area. If that breaks, and I'd be looking for 552 as a potential target. So far, SPY is looking pretty good in my opinion. It's pretty set for this. We've been dumping really hard without much of a bounce so far, so it is kind of due. And I think what might happen is there's usually a lot of hype, a lot of excitement associated with these big tech earnings. So we might see some buying that comes into the markets at least temporarily. Now, even if we do get a temporary break, that does not mean that we should turn into perma bulls. Okay, I'm not going to turn into a perma bull as a result of this because it could always be a trap as well. And let me elaborate on this. So if you were to make a big move like that, I'm going to start from the bottom and go back up this way on the Fibonacci retracement tool. You could also go this way. It's basically the same thing, but it's inverted. It doesn't really matter. But basically, from what I'm seeing, okay, we don't know if SPY is truly going to break out. Because what if we respect these key fib levels and we start pushing up to this resistance right here? We even break through this going into like Tuesday, and that's when we reach the 552 area, right? It could happen, and that would be awesome. But how do we know if it's just going to keep going like this? How do we know it's going to keep flying to 560 plus? We don't know that, okay? We don't know if it's going to go all the way up to 560 or 558. We're not talking about high levels like that. I'm just talking about 548s to 552 as potential targets. If we reject, let's just say something happens with, I don't know, with the FOMC meeting or something happens with Amazon's earnings. I can't predict everything. I can't predict what Jerome Powell is going to say and what kind of reaction the market will always get after FOMC. So there's always the possibility we do come back down to fill this gap and we do come down lower. That's always a possibility. So from the way I see things, right? When the market makes a big move, you don't want to assume that it's a crash. You also don't want to assume it's going to be a massive permeable squeeze. You don't want to assume that way. And let me elaborate on this. So when SPY was pushing, okay, when SPX, the market was pushing all the way up to 565, then we started dipping a bit. Many people assumed the market was crashing. It's a big crash, this and that. I told you all, hold on a second. We didn't even lose our 536 area, the very important support I called out last week. I mentioned that to everyone. We haven't lost that key support yet. So because we haven't lost support, there's no way for us to turn into perma bears. There's no way for this to be a true crash if we haven't even lost 536 as one key level. And even to this day, we never lost 536 on SPY. We actually held support so far. So now that we're rebounding, that does not mean that you should just assume we're going to go straight up to all-time highs just like that. There's nowhere on the chart that tells us that quite yet. But if we do break above one key level, if we manage to break past the level that we have right over here, if we manage to break one key level, then it is possible for us to attempt to get a breakout. If we break past 548, I think 552 is going to be our next target. So I'm just going to take it one step at a time. So be conservative with your targets until you get confirmation for even more upside. And we'll be watching to see how things end up going. But I anticipate that there's going to be likely more upside coming, especially because we're holding above key support. If we lose 542, then yes, I'll be looking at the gap fill to 539. Not looking as probable right now as we're getting a bullish cross in the PPO. What looks more likely is the market might start pushing next week because of big tech earnings, a lot of hype, a lot more buyers stepping in. So I'm anticipating a little bounce. I think that's the most likely possibility. I'm not saying it's a huge squeeze. I'm not saying we're also in a crash right now. We're just going to look for a temporary bounce as the next most likely move. So long as we don't lose 542 on SPY, that's looking more favorable to me. What else adds to this confluence is SPX. If you were to zoom out like this, let me show you something interesting on the 1 hour time frame. We have a very, very nice looking structure on this. So if you take the high all the way up here in the 5600s and you kind of connect it like this, you guys could see that we're going to likely get a test of this trend line. We love to test the trend line. We could even try to break it. If we test this trend line, this also kind of aligns very well with our 200 EMA, the 5500 area. Then we could try to fill this gap up here. It is very possible we try to fill this gap, at least come very close to doing so, to lead to this small little bounce as we have a nice accumulation right here. If we were to reject, I mean, it really depends on different factors, of course, but that gap fill also kind of aligns very closely with our 0.786 retracement. So that's actually a nice confluence we're seeing right here. So I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. For ES, you can see the same thing kind of developing. ES is also trying to hold up, but remember, ES trades for longer, so it actually trades very differently. That's why it has very, very different looking confluences and such. If we were to get a rebound, our 0.786 retracement happens to be in the 55 80s, which is a little high. I mean, I don't know if we're going to come all the way up to fill that yet, but I'm going to be looking at this level right here, just under the 0.618 retracement on ES is 55, 54. So that could be tested too. So I'll be watching for that as well. So we'll see how things go. For Tesla, this has dumped quite a bit, guys. Okay. And it's possible Tesla tries to rebound, especially because we're holding our key 4-hour 200 EMA. But I need to see it break 225 for us to turn back up. There's no confirmation of Tesla doing that. There's no confirmation of Tesla getting a big bounce. So if we break 225, I think we could be going all the way up to at least not just 228, but also 234 would be a potential target. That's also very close to where our 232 area is, the previous support becoming resistance. So there is most definitely potential for Tesla. The QQQ has the same setup. It's actually getting very tight right now. So I actually have a pennant being drawn out right here. So I'm not 100% sure about the QQQ yet. We need to try to break 466 first. So we'll see if that ends up being the case or not. But that's something else I wanted to call out. Going back to SPY, I'm going to talk about the QQQ a little bit more in just a minute. But when you look at the daily time frame, the daily is showing some life right now. When you look at the daily candlestick, there's a little bit of life showing right here. I do see potential for it to try to rebound. We'll see how it ends up reacting to the trend line. Could be a test very close to about 548. If not, 552 if that bounces. And then if you look at the weekly is still bearish overall in terms of the trend, but there could be a temporary move right here thanks to this wick. So I'll be watching for that as well. I'm going to be very patient with this. There's no sign that this is actually going to lose 536 yet. So I'm going to have to just wait and see. Tesla on the weekly looks kind of weak still, but I'll be watching to see if we hold our key supports. Still always a possibility. And then for the QQQ, the weekly is actually trying to hold its 20 EMA, that 458 area. So we have a support that's worth watching for. So that could lead to a little rebound for it. I need to see it break 466 first. We're currently at 463 right now. We're 3 points away. So if we do get that break, there could be a temporary bounce coming. But if we get some bad earnings, so even if we do get a temporary bounce and we end up getting a rejection afterwards, watch 458. If that fails us, we could be dipping all the way down to 450 if we get some bad earnings from tech. So it's going to be very, very dependent on tech earnings. We have Apple and many others announcing earnings as well. NQ is also testing its weekly 20 EMA. We'll see if that holds or not. But that's what I'm seeing for now, guys. So is the market crashing? No, this is not a crash. So far, this is just a typical pullback. Is this going to lead to a mother of all short squeeze? Mother of all short squeezes, excuse me. I can't say that. There's no way I could determine that. So don't be too bullish quite yet. But I see potential for a bounce if we break resistance. I'm seeing some structure building that suggests that upside is a stronger possibility. So if 548 breaks, we'll be looking for 552 on SPY. Then we'll see where we go from there for a temporary bounce. That looks very probable to me. Don't be too bullish. Just wait and see. And we'll see how things go. By too bullish, I mean, don't expect SPY to go back up to like 560 instantly. That depends on different factors. And personally, guys, I can't predict everything like a week out because we have so many catalysts, especially Jerome Powell's speech on Wednesday. I don't know what the guy's going to say. Maybe he'll pump the markets, maybe he won't. We'll see. But just be open-minded, guys. Be optimistic, and we'll see how things go. Anyways, that's it for my video. Hopefully this video is more insightful about where I think things could potentially be going, why you should watch for certain levels, and how the moves could end up playing out. Just because I'm saying there could be a small bounce, it does not mean I think the market's going to go to new all-time highs just instantly. It does not mean that yet. And you just want to be open-minded for the way that things could end up moving. All right, so this is going to be a quick update for today. I'll be back tomorrow to give you guys another update for the markets. Remain calm, cool, and collected, guys, and I'll see you guys very soon in the next one. Thank you for listening, and peace out.